Welcome to Southwest Florida Real Estate Update, hosted by area realtor Jim York and York Real Estate Group of Downing Fry Realty. Our show will bring you the most up-to-date information about the local real estate market, featuring leading experts in the real estate field.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Southwest Florida Real Estate Update. I'm Michael York with the York Real Estate Group, and I'm joined today by our host Jim York and his guest Don Ross of Ross Title and Escrow.
Thank you, Michael, for the introduction. Don, it's good to see you again for our monthly update here. For the viewers that have not seen you before or met you, could you at least tell them a little bit about yourself and your company?
I'm an attorney. My company is Ross Title and Escrow. Been a member of the bar since 1983. I'm one of the shareholders in Downing Fry. I've been the attorney for that company for 25 years approximately. The real estate title company, we have 8 employees, 4 closers, 4 pre-closers, a couple of post-closers. My office manager has been with me 28 years, maybe 29. Fairly active business.
And you're located?
Corner of 6th Avenue North and 41, right on 41, right across the street from Pastrami Dan's.
Well, Don, you know, the reason we're doing the show this month, where the topic's going to be, we've done, 6 or 7 seminars here during season.
Sure.
And a lot of the people were asking, what is the difference between a title company and using an attorney? And that was, I think, in every seminar we had, people asked that question. So I thought it would be a nice show and to tell our viewers, what do you do every day? So, because I'm trying to figure that out.
Yeah, contrary to my daughter was asking my wife that the other day, what does Dad do? She lives in Baltimore. But I get that question all the time at the seminars, as you mentioned, and it's really, it's almost the wrong question. And I guess it's best illustrated by just showing some of the things I've done just in the last day. I wrote these notes down this morning. This is what I've done today and 4 o'clock on yesterday.
Right.
That you won't get at a title company. Title companies cannot do this. These things require legal analyses, legal creativity, experience. You want somebody who's done a lot of these so that they can draw on past experiences.
But not to interrupt you there, but just explain to our viewers your role as an attorney and that you also have a title company also.
I'm a partner in Ross Lanier and Dyfick and the sole shareholder of Ross Title and Escrow. We're in the same physical space. And again, have been the attorney for Downing Fry Realty for 25 years. So I'm in all those entities. My role in the title company, other than owning it and running it, is to fix problems, answer questions of people calling in. What does this contractual provision mean? How does the inspection process work? How does mortgage contingency work? Why do I have to do a seller's disclosure? The 8,000 questions that people have through the closing process, I'm the one who answers them. And in most title companies, unless you have an attorney like me as an owner or working there with some experience,
that's right.
you don't get that. You can't call most title companies and ask, how do my inspection rights work? What are my inspection rights? How do I waive a financing contingency? Do I need to? Why should I? What happens if I do? They will not talk to you about those issues. I mean, I've read condo docs this morning.
That's right.
I read a golf membership agreement this morning so that I can be ready for my 11 o'clock appointment tomorrow with a telephone conference with a young man from London whose dad is buying a property here. He's 82. He's been married 3 times. He's got a girlfriend. How do we title the property? He wants to play golf.
Right.
God knows what Dad's going to do. What's the best way to do it? So that's one small example of what I do.
These questions arise all the time. I mean, it's amazing. People really don't understand what, buying real estate in Florida, it's completely different. And just the part of the condo docs or looking over a contract that you buy through a developer is something that people really need to understand and the real estate agent can help so much, but it's really, they need an attorney like yourself.
Well, I remember from the seminars that we've done together, you mentioned the developer contracts. You know, some developers will let you have your own inspection.
That's right.
Some won't. And you know, I reviewed a developer contract last week for somebody, and that particular developer did allow the buyer to have an inspection. They weren't necessarily bound by it, but they allowed the buyer to come in before closing and do radon or mold or whatever other inspections they wanted. So I would point that out to the client. With the condo docs, I highlight things, and this is the way I put it. Here are the things I don't want you to miss.
That's
No
right.
lawyer in their right mind is going to tell someone, don't read the rest of it. It's boilerplate. It's totally unnecessary. We'll say, this is what you don't want to miss. You got use restrictions in the declaration. You got rules and regs that affect your day-to-day use. Year-end financial statement. What are the reserves?
That's
Are
right.
accounts receivable high? Frequently asked questions. You know, leases, pets. What kind of vehicle can you have there? And then I ask, is there something special that you're worried about? You know, that I should be looking for above and beyond these uniform things that everybody should know about.
That's right.
Then I cover myself by saying you really should read the whole thing.
All right. Well, Don, we're going to take a little short
Sure.
break, and we're going to be back in 1 minute. Thank you.
When picking a realtor, don't just pick anyone. Pick someone with experience. Pick someone with a proven track record. Pick a realtor like Jim York from Downing Fry Realty, the #1 brokerage with the most real estate transactions in the area.
My husband and I had very specific ideas about what we wanted in our new home. Jim York was able to help us find the home that was ideal for us.
With over 20 years of real estate experience in Southwest Florida, Jim York has negotiated over $200 million in sales contracts. Selecting the right realtor is a critical decision that can earn you thousands when selling or save you thousands when buying.
Jim also helped us with a mortgage lender and a good real estate attorney. He went that extra mile, and his experience says it all.
Call Jim York for a no-obligation meeting at 239-273-6727 or visit his website, www.naplesyorkrealestate.com.
Welcome back. Don, we were talking about your typical day, okay? So let's just cover a few things here that happened today that you had to deal with.
This was actually 4:30 last night, but I have a client who wants to buy a home, just moved here, wouldn't qualify for a mortgage for a couple of years, actually met with a lender, and the lender told him, you know, you need at least 2 years of employment before you would qualify. So I drafted a lease with an option to purchase. And I know NABOR has a form for the agents to do this, but it's not something any agent really should touch. Your lawyer should do this because there's a lot of issues. And if you reduce it, an option to purchase is the right of somebody to buy a piece of real estate for a set price within a certain time period. And they usually give non-refundable money to the seller.
Right.
You need consideration to make it binding. So they're making a non-refundable payment. In this case, it was about $10,000. They're not getting it back if they don't buy the property for the right to buy this property in 2 years. So it's my job to make that bulletproof. I mean, I assume that if for whatever reason lending guidelines change and that buyer doesn't qualify 2 years from now to get a mortgage, he's going to go running to a lawyer to see if there's some way to get his money back.
That's right.
So I have to make this, impenetrable to any sort of argument that he should get his money back. So we have a very comprehensive seller's disclosure. We had the buyer do their inspection before they signed the lease. We looked at the survey. We have notes on the meeting with the lender. We looked at the title, and we looked at anything relating to the deal that the buyer could conceivably raise as something that he should have been told about before he signed this lease with an option to buy. I know these issues because I've been through these things before, and there are also tax issues for the seller on the option payment.
Right.
So that was last night. That's just something I get probably once every 2-3 weeks for people who just moved here and they need a certain amount of employment before they qualify for a loan.
Okay, and then the next thing that you dealt
Well,
with.
I have a client who's selling her home, and she has a judgment of $27,000, not attaching to the home. With homestead, creditors' claims do not attach to the home except for the IRS, the bank that has a mortgage against the house, and anyone who's done work in the house. So if you have a credit card bill and they get a judgment, that doesn't attach to the house. She called me and she wanted to know how can she sell that house, take all the money and put it in a new house without the judgment attaching to house number 1, the money,
Right.
and house number 2. And there are actually cases on how to do this. I mean, if O.J. Simpson were to sell his house, I mean, everybody knows O.J. Simpson, and they know that there's a $40 million judgment against him. He could sell his house, and the proceeds can be held separately in you know, an attorney trust account,
Right.
clearly identifying his intention to buy a replacement property, and doing so quickly thereafter, and the whole thing would be exempt from that particular judgment. There are cases that talk about if there are monies left over, they could seize that, or if the monies are commingled, if you put it in
Right.
your checking account rather than leaving it with the lawyer. So that was actually 7 o'clock this morning on the way into Naples. I was talking to the client about that.
Wow.
It's you know, one of my typical issues.
And your next typical issue?
Well, I don't know what's typical and what's not.
I know, I'm just
I
teasing.
have a client who's selling a $4.3 million condo, and the buyer was conducting their inspection, and I'm on the phone this morning. I'm trying to get all my phone calls done on my way to my appointment.
Right.
And apparently the inspector checked out the ice maker and left it on, and then left.
Right.
Well, the drain was clogged, so it overflowed. $92,000 approximately of damage to the wood floors.
Wow.
That's quite an expensive condo. So I had to deal with that very upset gentleman this morning. I got a call into the opposing counsel, who I know at this point in my career, I know most of the real estate attorneys in town. I have their cell numbers, I can reach them, and it just makes it a lot easier to resolve these issues.
So how does something like that be resolved? Or maybe it's not resolved yet.
Well,
Does insurance take care of it?
The
or-
insurance does, but the insurance company is subrogated to the rights of the damaged party, my client. They can go after the inspector. Actually, they could go after the buyer in this case, because our neighbor contract, if you look at the inspection paragraphs, as the buyer indemnifying the seller for any damages that their inspection companies might,
Right.
you know, cause. So, you know, I haven't seen that actually happen, but
Right.
I'm sure they're going to be looking very hard after writing a check for over $90,000 for wood floors.
Right.
But you know, that's pretty much how it gets resolved. I mean, I get things like this day in and day out. You know, it's hard to pin down exactly what I do, but you know, each one of these things that we've mentioned so far, these are all legal points. These are things that title companies don't address.
That's right.
I think people shy away from lawyers because we have a reputation as being expensive, and with realtors perhaps as being deal breakers, you know, unless they know the lawyer.
That's right.
And for the general public, with the way things are these days, with the increased regulatory requirements with mortgages, and the contracts are much thicker than they ever were. There's many more cases out there. You really need a lawyer, but you want someone who's done a lot of these, somebody that you can negotiate a price with. Am I paying for, you know, legal hours or
Right.
just title insurance? You know, I frankly don't charge, you know, lawyer fees, attorney fees, with rare exceptions. It's usually the title insurance, and a lot of these people are repeat clients anyways.
That's right. Yep.
So you don't want to be penny wise and pound foolish.
Well, Don, we're going to take another little short break, and we're going to be
Sure.
back in 1 minute again. Thank you.
Thinking of buying or selling a home in Naples, Marco, Bonita, or Estero, Florida? Think of the most experienced York Real Estate Group associated with the #1 brokerage in Naples, Downing Fry Realty, which produced $1.9 billion in sales in 2014, controlling 43% of all transactions in Naples. Jim, Michael, and Morgan York make up the York Real Estate Group of Downing Fry Realty. With over $250 million in sales transactions, they can offer you the expertise and trust you want and need in a realtor. Call them today at 239-273-6727 or visit their website, www.naplesyorkrealestate.com.
Welcome back. Don, let's continue on this. I know you have one more question there that I wanted to go over with you, that you were helping a client.
Well, I mentioned earlier how the lawyers tend to know each other. I had one yesterday with an attorney in town. He's known him for over 30 years. He's 68 years old, and we were discussing, for want of a better word, the ability of his seller to use a power of attorney on behalf of her mother, who owned title to the property, as trustee.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
he said, okay, why isn't Mom signing anything?
Right.
Mom didn't sign the contract. Mom doesn't want to sign the deed.
Right.
Is Mom with us? Is there a problem?
Right.
Does Mom know what's going on? We don't want Mom to object after the fact and cause problems for the buyer. And there's a lot of cases on whether or not somebody who's an attorney in fact for someone can delegate their power. And in this case, I'll just use you for an example, like we did while we were sitting downstairs. If I gave you power of attorney to act for me, okay, I'm giving it to Jim York.
That's right.
I'm not giving it to somebody I don't know. So I would have a problem with you delegating it to some total stranger to me.
That's
I'm
right.
trusting you to sign a deed to my house, or to sign checks on my behalf or whatever. So it's me and you. You have a fiduciary relationship with me.
That's right.
Same thing with the trustee owning the property. The trustee has a fiduciary relationship with their beneficiaries, and the daughter has a fiduciary relationship through the power of attorney with her mother. So the mom can't delegate her fiduciary relationships to her daughter unless there's something in the trust that says she can do so. If I put something in our power of attorney that says it's okay, Jim, for you to delegate it to somebody you trust, I would have to specifically put that in there. So I had this, and it was a $900 and something thousand sale, and going back and forth, and why won't she sign? And the more he resisted, the more I got suspicious that there was something going on. And ultimately I found out what it was, which I'd rather not say. But the point is, when you have a power of attorney, I don't think any title company is really going to recognize it off the bat. That the ladies working at the front desk definitely aren't going to know. When the title order is ordered and they get the commitment, it has generic language that you'll get a warranty deed signed by so-and-so, and then they're going to try to use a power of attorney, and they'll have to email it to the attorney up in Tampa, or wherever the person might be located, to see, is this okay? And in many cases, the power of attorney, it's from another state. It could be from another country. I got a designation yesterday, actually from Nova Scotia, where they don't even have a power of attorney. They just have some statute where they're the surrogate for somebody else. And we had to send them a case saying, you have to do something in Florida. You can't just do it in Nova Scotia. So, my role is to resolve issues like that, and we try to do it for the same cost as any other title company. I don't lay on any additional attorney's fees. Many instances, there's 2 or 3 ways to resolve the issue. So sometimes you have to get creative. It's actually kind of fun. It's different ways to solve the puzzle and get the deal closed. So real estate attorneys are wired to close deals, to reconcile differences, not to fight necessarily, but to find out really what's going on and resolve it.
Okay, well that's, I know it's an important role that you play, at least in all the deals that we do with Michael, Morgan, and I, in that our transactions run very smoothly. It's just amazing, and our clients feel the same way. But before we end the show here, I'd like to at least touch base on, because a lot of questions were, do you need title insurance, and what is the cost of title insurance?
Okay.
So maybe you can explain that to our viewers before we end the show here.
If you're getting a loan, you have to have title insurance.
Mm-hmm.
There's no choice. The bank's going to require it. If you're not getting a loan, you are not legally required to have title insurance. The problem you're going to run into, though, is finding some lawyer who will do it without title insurance, because it's a huge liability problem.
Right.
You know, a lawyer might have $1 or $2 million of errors and omission insurance, and they're not going to do a $2 million deal and not have title insurance. If you have title insurance, the underwriter, which is a big national company worth hundreds of millions of dollars or more,
Right.
is insuring this. And if there's a problem, they take care of it and they pay for it.
Right.
Okay, the lawyer does, you know, some of the things I described in this show, solving individual problems, different ways to give the underwriter what they're asking for, fixing title issues when they come up. And I do get a lot of people who, you know, I don't want title insurance, and I'll always tell them, well, if you have a friend down here who's an attorney, I get people from Chicago, New York, Connecticut, you can call them, and perhaps they'll give you a break and a favor and do it for cost, because they can negotiate the price.
That's right.
But you should have it, whether you use it or use me or not. You definitely should have it. You don't spend $1 million or $2 million, or, you know, anything that's significant to you, and not protect it. I mean, in my mind, it's always been, again, as a father of 4 kids, you know, adults now,
Right.
Irresponsible to bring 4 people into the world and not have life insurance, unless I'm independently wealthy, which when I was younger I wasn't. So, you know, it's just prudent. And I don't know any lawyers who will do it without title insurance. I have heard that there are a couple, and actually I had one client, and I've told the client, I won't do it unless you get it. He found somebody. They were charging $2,000, but they wanted him to sign a letter saying that they hold him harmless from everything known to man, and he doesn't have to do anything. And he called me back and said, I want you to do it. What good is this if the guy wants me to hold him harmless from everything, and I'm still writing him a check? So for a couple of $1,000s more, he got fully protected. And the advice I give is, and I tell them, it's, if you were my brother, if you were my sister, if you were my parent, I'd be telling you the exact same thing. You should do this. And I think in an earlier show, I did this for my father-in-law.
That's right, you're
I
right.
made sure he got it, because he got hurt in a prior deal, and I didn't want it to happen again.
And what is the cost of title insurance?
It is. I have my handy-dandy promulgated rate book. It's very exciting reading here. It's $5.75 per 1,000 on the first 100,000. So $575 on 100,000, plus if you're getting a loan, there's a settlement fee, a couple $100. And then it goes down to $5 per 1,000 up to $1 million.
Okay.
So $1 million owner's title insurance policy is $5,075. And there's almost always a settlement fee, which covers search costs, and you might, you know, scan the file and save it, and estoppel letters and things of that sort get reimbursed out of that. If you get a loan, your lender's estimate is going to show mortgagee title insurance, and then the lender has various other forms of title insurance that they want, depending upon whether it's part of a PUD, a condominium, you know, an adjustable rate loan. They have endorsements for all those things, and those are at set rates. You know, it's usually $25 for an endorsement, unless there are 2 that are 10% of the policy amount. So you can get a quote from the lawyer up front. If I had to summarize this whole thing, 1, get an experienced lawyer. 2, get a quote on your prices. I mean, you want to know, am I paying title insurance plus attorney's fees? You know, if so, is there a cap?
That's
You know,
right.
what's your hourly rate? You know, do you do many closings? And the consumer will know. They're going to check with their realtor.
Interview the person.
Sure.
Interview the person.
Be comfortable with them. You want to be comfortable in asking questions. You don't want to feel like an idiot because you asked a lawyer a question.
In our last minute here, can you tell them about your app?
Oh, we've had an app that actually I've been
Goes
sending.
on your phone, right?
It's on my phone. It's on my iPad.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my entire office right here, my phone, my
Right,
iPad. And I write articles for the agents at Downing Fry, and I email them an article every week or so, and as part of that, I say, here's the app. The app came about because we were getting a lot of phone calls during the week from agents and owners and sellers just asking for a preliminary closing statement,
Right.
So that they would know how much they would get if they sold it for X,
Mm-hmm.
or if they bought it for Y. And we're not around on the weekend, or my ladies aren't. You can get me, but my ladies are not. And this allows the realtor to generate for their owner if they're trying to get a listing.
Right.
This is approximately how much you would net if you listed it for this amount and sold it for this amount. If the realtor had a buyer who wanted to make an offer on the weekend,
Right.
well, how much is it going to cost me?
Mm-hmm.
You know, how much am I going to have to come up with?
Right.
This app allows the realtor to plug in, you know, with the city, the price, is there a mortgage, because it'll factor in dock
That's
stamps and
right.
things like that, commissions,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll show how much it's going to cost the buyer. So it's cut down on the requests for my ladies for preliminary closing statements. I think it's been a useful tool for the agents. You know, gives them the ability to give more information to their people on weekends.
Right. Yeah, I think the app is very useful for everyone involved, so they can, you know, like I said, it's hard to get everyone wants to know what their net is going to be.
Right.
So that's very useful.
Thank
well,
you.
Don, thanks for coming on the show
Thanks
today.
for having me, Jim. Appreciate it.
And I'll look forward to next week, next month with you.
Next
okay?
week?
Yeah. Thank you very much.